Crypto markets just saw a major dump, a huge move to the downside. Yesterday, when we were streaming, it was 45,700 Bitcoin. Now it's about 42,500. All of this apparently coming on a rumor that the ETF might get rejected. We're going to talk about that, why that notion is actually nonsense for this move. And I've got the best possible guest today. The stars aligned. They gave me major volatility and Raoul Pal, both right around 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Can't wait to discuss this with him. And of course, to look at charts on the back end with Chris Inks, Texas West Capital. Let's go.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of Wall Street. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. I'm not going to waste any time because I don't have that much of it. Raoul, Matrix port. Like, I read this. I go to Twitter. I see the market dumping. I'm like, so what excuse do we have today? We all know that it's leverage. We'll get into that. But what excuse? A guy with no inside information on anything said in a report that he thinks because it's a bunch of Democrats that we might not get a Bitcoin spot ETF approved.
I mean, who the fuck is Matrix Port? Nobody's ever heard of them until today.
I think that's Jihan Wu's. It started as it was a mining, and then I think it was sort of actually like one of these yield platforms. I think it started as sort of a Celsius, one of those competitors. I mean, here's what he said, right? The current 5-person voting commissioner's leadership critical for the ETF approval of the SEC is dominated by Democrats. I mean, that's basically his premise here. We were bullish before, now we're not bullish, but we still think the year will be good. And here we go with this massive event. But what I think really happened here, I mean, just for the record, is really clear. I talked about it yesterday. 500 million in liquidations. This says 1 hour, but it's 10 minutes. 500 million, 95% longs. Yesterday, talked about it at length, that annualized funding rates were 66% to be long.
I mean, humans love sex and leverage like nothing else. It's kind of what drives them. And I think the leverage is all about sex. Look how rich I am. Look how big my bags are. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I keep saying to people, don't fuck this up. And leverage is the classic way to back it up. If you think about Solana, it's had a peak to trough 36% pullback. Now, even if you were mild 3 times leverage and the general degens are much more than 3 times levered, you get wiped out. It's like, stop doing that, please. Just stick with the program. Don't fuck this up.
I don't think they'll ever learn. Is it because people just feel like they need to get rich quick? The lack of patience, well, look, and I've got to do it now.
In what world does Solana go up 10x in a year and you don't think there's enough juicy price action for you that you simply must leverage it? I mean, what world is that?
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Just to be clear, you know, we obviously look to the experts when things like this happen. This is Eric Balchunas from Bloomberg, who I had on last week. People tagging me like crazy on this rejection report. We've heard nothing to indicate anything but approval. But I want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt, so I'm asking if he has any sources or if he's just speculating. He seems to be a Bitcoin bull and recently tweeted, executives said approval likely. So unsure why we flipped. So listen, this isn't the reason, right? This is a catalyst for somebody. Somebody's always sitting there when there's over leverage and it's all to one side, waiting for any little thing that they can use to sell off a bit and spark this.
Yeah, and don't forget,
right? I mean,
there are a lot of short-term traders in this space with a lot of capital, right? The main institutional capital in this space is actually trading firms. There's very few hedge funds, and there's very few big institutions. So these guys see that massive buildup in leverage, they wait for something, and then they press it and everyone gets liquidated and they make a ton of money from it. It's classic kind of market maker price action. It would have happened on the New York Stock Exchange floor, happens in the futures exchanges, it happens always. But the one thing, just before I came on today, I went back and looked at the 2015 to 18 bull market. We had 11 20% pullbacks or more. Many of them were 35, 38%. In the last cycle, from the 2020 low, not even the 2019 low, from the 2020 low, we had 8 corrections over 15%. Some happened in a day, and some happened over 3 weeks. So it's normal.
Yeah, we say it all the time, but somehow it's mind-blowing when it happens and we're rotating and the bear market is back and it's over, right? I mean, this is 10-ish% move. It is nothing. Of course, altcoins get rocked a lot harder, but actually we've had a pretty decent bounce here. This went all the way down to, I'm looking on Coinbase, about 40,600. Pretty big. Like I said, that 24 hours ago, I remember saying 45,700. We're on our way.
The issue is it doesn't even give you enough time to go and search the sofa for any spare change, rifling through your jean pockets, looking for any cash. It's all over and done with. And before you know it, as somebody was saying, I think it was OSF was saying, now it would be hilarious if they approved the ETF today.
Yeah, and I think that's been speculation that's very likely to happen, at least that they'll find out that they're approved, with the ability to launch. We may not hear about it, but a lot of people believing that the process is happening today, tomorrow. And frankly, does it matter if it happens today or in a week or even in 3 months at all?
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, but you know what the greatest top signal is? I have to play this video. I'm sorry, because we saw it yesterday and then the market drops 10%.
Is this Jim Cramer?
But I do think that the people who are in it for that are going to use that as a chance to sell. But this thing is, you can't kill it.
No, can't.
And the late Charlie Munger, who was so brilliant on so many things, was blind to this. Now you can say, wait a second, maybe it's all going to come
Jamie
unravel.
Dimon has not spared any negative words.
No, but look, I mean, it's a reality and it's a technological marvel, and I think people have to start recognizing that it's here to stay. The SEC's been against it almost the whole time.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that every one of these is here to stay, but I do think that this is a remarkable comeback that was unexpected.
Totally.
Except for all the bulls who turned out to be right.
Gensler does a lot of jawboning.
Didn't work.
Didn't work. I mean,
Jim Cramer, hilarious, and he's a great meme for all of us. But the other thing is, I'm just watching CNBC, and it just looks like of an older, different age. It's like a world that doesn't exist anymore. Its daily viewing figures are less than you and I will get on this show. It's kind of, and yet the space still looks at it for some sort of validation. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much he's flip-flopped. It's one of those things, actually, like he's saying the right thing. I'm glad to hear it. I 100% agree with it. It's just incredible what the market does the minute that he flip-flops. They had the inverse Kramer ETF. I would love to see the performance of it if it includes Bitcoin, but it's pretty comical to see this go down. Okay,
it's
so
like
listen.
It's like Capo and his tweeting as well.
Oh my God, did you see this one?
No.
Wait. I have just been informed of what really happened. At 4:48 a.m., Capo took his first long since 2022. I hate making fun of this guy. Honestly, I think everybody.
I don't even know who he is, but it's just a great meme, right?
From the exact moment the entire market nuked, the timing is incredible, and it shows him taking an AVAX long for a scalp. And this is literally, I think, the first time he's posted about a long position since the dead bottom. And it was, to like within 20 minutes, the market started to move. How is this possible? Come on.
I don't know, but we've all top tick markets before.
Yeah, I'm the master of that, no doubt. Okay, so listen, I think that we both agree that this is a liquidation event. It caused a cascade. This is the classic situation. So I guess then the question is, what comes next? Like, does this in any way impact your view of what's happening here in the market? For me, we're literally trading at the same price as 2 days ago on Bitcoin. 2 days ago.
Another mantra that I have when you're in the middle of a bull market that has the macro behind it is it's all fucking noise. It's just noise. And so, has the main thesis changed? Is the world becoming less digital or more digital every day? More. Are investors who aren't exposed to it getting more interested in it? Yes. Is there capital flow coming in? Yes. Is the business cycle supportive? Are liquidity conditions supportive? Yes. In which everything else is noise. So it doesn't change anything. It actually gives it a higher probability of rising. And it gives it a higher probability of rising because you flushed out the leverage.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that
it
helps.
literally cannot continue up with those funding rates and that much open interest. So I think that it's just a classic move. So for me, I still think we still get a massive move up if we get the actual approval now.
Obviously, if we'd gone in with such high funding, we'd have had to sell off after the event. Now we can have a rally and maybe a sideways consolidation before it actually goes live, right? So we've got announcement and then live date, and then the masses need to be mobilized. And so there's going to be waves of that happening. So my general mental model, could be dead wrong, is we rally into it, rally after it, sideways consolidate for, a month while everybody starts launching this thing. The tickers come out, you can start trading it, and the RAAs go around talking to their clients. And then by March, it all starts going batshit crazy.
Yeah. So the premise of a lot of this, obviously, is this institutional wall of capital. I have a clip of you that my producer just shared from 2020. And I want to see what you said here and see if you still agree with it. Are you ready? Here we go.
Go for it.
Bullish calls out there for Bitcoin, not just the $1 million mark, but $1 million within 5 years.
Yeah, I think that's about right. And that, whether it's 5 years, 6 years, we're going to go through 2 of these halving cycles. And just from what I know from all of the institutions, all of the people I speak to, there is an enormous wall of money coming into this. It's an enormous wall of money. Just the pipes aren't there to allow people to do it yet. And that's coming, but it's on everybody's radar screen, and there's a lot of smart people working on it. So I think it's going to be not because the world's collapsing, it's because there's going to be adoption by the real large pools of capital.
Right. I could obviously ask the question, is 1 million Bitcoin still possible? But that's the noise. That doesn't matter. I think we all think that's possible. And like you said, 5, 6, 7 years. But that was a pretty prophetic prediction, because you were talking about the institutional wall of capital, which the ETF is the single greatest unlock for that, in my opinion. And the idea that the pipes would finally be ready, which is the same sort of concept. We all know that in 2020, they just couldn't come in. Like, was BlackRock going to just store it on their ledger in a safe and hope for the best? Like, it didn't exist.
Well, don't forget, Rick Reeder did buy it. I think he used the futures contract. He bought it. He's their big risk taker. So we did see institutional adoption, but it was like early, the true pipes weren't there. And now it's all there, and they've all done the work on it, and they all understand it. So, we've seen the work that, you've had Sandy on from Franklin Templeton. We've seen, obviously, the Fidelity team. These guys have been working throughout. People like Bitwise, Hunter Horsley, they've been out working all the way through the bear market, educating people, getting people in place, getting the right product, ramping up their teams. It's coming.
I mean, somebody said it in the comments, but it's not like they're shooting commercials and spending money on these things if they don't think they're going to get approved, right? I played the Hashtags commercial, the Bitwise commercial, the Van Eck commercial yesterday. That would be a pretty big waste of money if these things aren't coming. So do you think that the institutional wall of money is sitting there waiting for this product? Do you think the demand will be there? We've seen these really mixed sort of predictions, even from the experts. It'll be $1 billion in a week, like BITO was 48 hours. And then some saying maybe it's 30 or 40 million in the first month, right? I don't know how to gauge that.
I've always said it's a function of price. So if price, last year was the best advert you wanted for an ETF to launch. If you'd have launched the ETF in November 2022, you'd have raised $30 million and everyone would have been embarrassed.
Yeah, like the futures.
You raise it after Bitcoin's done 150% last year. That's pretty interesting to people. So now, are the institutions going to use the ETF? Mostly not. It's mostly the RAAs. It's really for individual investors. So those pools of capital and the individuals, it makes it just super easy because they can just use their brokerage app, or they can use their RAA because then they can get fees on top. So they're incentivized to do it. Will some pension funds do it? Yes, but they still really don't know how to deal with this asset class yet. And they want more regulatory clarity. I mean, it helps with an ETF. So we will see it. One of the headlines that will come across the tape in 2024 is some monster pension fund has taken a monster sized position in Bitcoin. It's not just Bill Miller and Texas teachers. It'll be a bunch of others. We will see those headlines. They will be the pioneers to show the way to others that you could do it, much like Paul Tudor Jones was a pioneer in getting the hedge funds to start trading it, because he was pretty early into getting on board with it.
Yeah, his fastest horse in the race comment arguably sparked the entire last bull run. Of course, alongside MicroStrategy deciding to buy and put it on their balance sheet. I don't know if you saw, but Saylor now apparently is selling like 230, 240 million in MicroStrategy stock. I bet we know where that money's going to go.
At some point, is he going to sell any of his own stock?
I mean, that's what he was doing. I think he's selling his own MicroStrategy stock, but the implication that he's going to himself buy more Bitcoin with it. I mean, the guy is, but you have to respect the absolute conviction in doing it, and that he's been right even through these cycles. I mean, people like us who've been around a while, you're willing to wait 10, 20 years for something to happen. But then you get on in the court of public opinion, and if you're not profitable in 6 months, you're the worst investor that ever existed on the planet, right?
Yeah, always the case. Look, I mean, he's been very single-minded, and I would argue brave, because you're using leverage by issuing convertible notes to buy, and it could have gone horribly wrong had the last cycle got worse, the down cycle, but he did it. And there's generally the people who make obscene amounts of money generally take quite a lot of risk.
Yeah.
And
those
that don't make it aren't recorded, and everyone forgets those who don't make it, but they remember the winner, the person who managed to get it right. And good for him.
He'll go down as one of the greatest investors of all time. But this is a good opportunity, I think, for us to sort of give a reset on our previous conversations. Obviously, we had the podcast, a few weeks back. We talked about Solana, and you were extremely bullish on it. That was probably 3x ago at this point. It was a couple months ago, I think. You talked about getting this natural retrace that was obviously coming after you do a move that large, 10, 15, 20x. Is Solana still your main focus for the upcoming bull market and that ecosystem? You were obviously very bullish on ETH in the last cycle. I'm actually starting to think that ETH is going to catch up massively soon. That's sort of my premise at this point after the Solana move. I was wondering where you stand on all of it.
So, yeah, my thesis remains unchanged. So I'm mainly denominated in Solana. Second is ETH. And like you, I think ETH has a big catch up as soon as this ETF is done. So that pause after the ETF is announced is, I think, the start of the ETH run. Because it's very simple. Let's say $1 billion of speculative capital went in to speculating on the Bitcoin ETF. Okay, once that news is out, you'll sell. Then what do? Oh, the ETH ETF, well, that's going to come by maybe June. So in which case that $1 billion goes into ETH. Now, what's interesting about ETH is it's a third of the size of Bitcoin currently. So if you put the same $1 billion into an asset that's a third of the size, it probably goes 3x more than Bitcoin did. And, ETH with the deflationary asset, the more activity, the less ETH there is around, and all of the staking means there's not a lot of liquid ETH around if this happens. So it could get very, very squeezy. So yeah, I think that. And maybe at some point it'll play a bit of catch up to Solana. I think Solana beats it all cycle, but there'll be legs when ETH does really well, much like Bitcoin started off out of the gates faster than anything. Then Solana caught up and exceeded it. I think ETH's chance is next.
Yeah, we've seen sort of this classic cyclical action of capital, but it hasn't necessarily been just from, say, Solana to AVAX to hopefully ETH or something like that. But we've seen the entire ecosystem sort of move together. So is there anything that you're watching more deeply within these ecosystems that's particularly interesting to you? I've always said to people, hey, man, just buy the layer one, because you're not going to do the work to find the thing in that ecosystem that goes 100x. You'll get the value of the actual, layer one token. But there's some pretty interesting things happening in these ecosystems, Solana in particular.
Yes, there are. And I'm not smart enough to do it. I start up an asset management company called Exponential Age Asset Management, XPAM, that actually invests it's a fund of hedge funds, so invests in digital asset hedge funds. So they go out and do the work and do it because that's their job. I'm just not smart enough to find it. One thing I do know is some tokens with new charts will do well. Who's that going to be? Is that going to be, we've seen it with Bonk, could it be with any of the others, a whole bunch of these? And that's a bit of a crapshoot who gets adoption. The one thing that for everybody else to bear in mind is that these cycles tend to play out the same way. So it tends to start with crypto spring, is Bitcoin dense. We then start transitioning later spring, and it seems to be always DeFi season. I don't know why, but DeFi season starts taking off. Then you start hitting alt season. When global liquidity starts increasing year on year, alt season hits and ETH starts outperforming Bitcoin. And then you get some of these ridiculous tail events. Also, NFTs lag. So we're kind of like we were beginning of last year in crypto, where some of the NFTs have found a base and are rallying. Others are still bleeding. Obviously, some of those will go to zero, obviously. But that NFT space, it really takes off when ETH goes to all-time highs. That's what happened last time around. And then it utterly explodes because everyone's got money to recycle. They buy trophy assets. Everyone wants to buy a punk. And then off it goes again. So we've got that madness still to come. We've still got another leg, meme coin madness, dog coin madness comes later still. So that's in Q2 is kind of dog coin madness to come. So all of the psychology of the degens, that'll play out as normal, plus the sensible bets of the right layer ones.
Yeah, I mean, the cycles make perfect sense because it's just people looking for larger gains and more risk as they get bored with whatever they just made money on. If ETH does it, well, now I got to beat ETH. I got to get into NFTs or layer twos or whatever it is. And I, for one, believe that this will be an even bigger cycle and bigger version of that.
This is something I'm toying with. So here's my probability set. 60% chance it's a regular cycle, somewhat like the last cycle, but maybe a bit more like the previous cycle, that 2017. That got a little bit crazy. I think there's a 20% chance that maybe it all gets front loaded because we get all of the retail demand via the ETF, and it actually is a shorter cycle than expected. If you think the previous cycle was actually a bit stunted versus where people's expectations were, maybe this is stunted in terms of time. The other outcome I've got, the other 20% chance, is that this is a gigantic bubble cycle, somewhere between the 2012-13 version and the 2015, because everybody can now participate and total fucking madness ensues. And I don't know which one of those three it's going to be, but they've all got a decent chance.
Maybe it's my bags and future wealth talking, but I lean towards the latter. But I do have a premise for that, and I'll tell you why.
Because don't forget, if you think about, everybody was a little bit shocked that we didn't have a final leg last time around. So they now got that imprint. Like they've all been waiting for the down 50% leg, the COVID leg, which is not going to happen again. So they're now all expecting that it to be a smaller cycle. And I always look for where can the crowd be wrong, but still be right, which is like it's going up, but it goes up more.
My feeling is that it might continue to be a dampened or smaller cycle for Bitcoin, which we've seen sort of each, halving cycle goes up 1,000%, 20%, 3%, whatever the numbers are, right? From the previous all-time high. But I think people underestimate just how degenerate these TradFi guys are. And once they come in through the Bitcoin ETF and once they get a taste for this market, wait until they find out about meme coins and altcoins and NFTs. And that real liquidity comes in there. So I think that we get the inevitable trickle down of even institutional traders. I'm not saying that pension funds are buying punks, but I think that there's going to be just an unexpected boom in capital, and that's going to flow through that same cycle that we talked about before.
Everybody's been through that cycle. You have, I have, everybody. Is you come in on Bitcoin, and then you walk into the candy store, and it's like, holy shit, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And before you know it, you're doing ridiculous things you should never be doing and having a lot of fun doing it, even knowing that it's crazy.
I mean, if you're doing it with profits and not your rent, then, I think in a small percentage thereof, I think have at it. Is anything at this point in the macro cycle? We've talked about the 4 years everything cycle. Obviously, people can go back and listen to that. But is there anything in the macro that's concerning you that you think could stifle this process?
No. So my forward-looking indicators of liquidity going up. The business cycle following that path. Inflation falling. Look at trueflation. It was down at 2 point whatever again. I still think it goes to zero. And then following it will be the core inflation will keep deflating. Unemployment, who knows? I think it rises a little bit from here. But that's enough to bring the Fed into action. Will they use the balance sheet and print? Well, somehow they got to roll all of this debt. Maybe they don't. Maybe they figure a different way. Maybe they incentivize the banks to take it on board. Doesn't matter. It's the liquidity that matters. So I don't see anything on the horizon that changes any of this. And if you think about one of the big things that people were worried about was China. But cut to a month and a half ago, and she's got a smiling face in California, shaking hands with Gavin Newsom, talking about, well, we should all be working together. Well, that tells me for this cycle, that's taken that risk off the table too. So, where is the risk here?
Yesterday on Macro Monday on a Tuesday, we sort of reviewed, there was an article in Bloomberg reviewing basically the 2024 predictions of every meaningful Wall Street institution, and they were all the same. And there was nobody willing to say anything dramatic in either direction. Almost every single one of them said, we see inflation being a bit sticky, maybe a very mild and shallow recession. Maybe we trade sideways. It was like everyone was hedging their bets because they were wrong in 23.
Everybody was wrong.
Yeah.
And it was clear as day to me then, and it remains clear as day to me now. Sure, there will be upsets on the way. We've got to get through an election, and we don't know what madness is going to ensue in this election. We don't know what content we're going to be consuming that's AI, that gets us enraged, and then we start hating each other, and it won't have been real content. Who knows what stories, what fears the market has about, is Trump going to impose a 10% tariff on everything? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? So we will go through some volatility, but generally speaking, election years are all about the government giving out candy to appease the voters. And that's more cowbell in my mind.
Yeah, I don't see a situation where that doesn't happen. So I want to ask you before I let you go, anecdotally, because obviously you have real vision, and I can tell with my traffic or Twitter followers or how many people show up to a stream exactly what price is doing, right? The biggest days are always, obviously the biggest days are when it goes up or down massively, but the general trend is everything's dead when the market's dead, and all of a sudden people start coming back out of the woodwork. Are you seeing it in your business, this sort of bullish progression of prices and the everything going up? Are you seeing a ton of movement with new subscribers, interest, things like that?
Yes. People are starting to feel confident again, right? And it took them a long time through 2023 to start to believe that the economy could recover, that it wasn't going to hell in a handbasket, and it was okay to be bullish again. And look, it's just the business cycle, and that's normal. It took people a while. It took people a while to recover from, but my crypto went down 75%. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. It does this all the time. You'll just hang on, stick with it. Don't fuck this up. So yes, we're seeing confidence come back. You're seeing more engagement in videos. You're seeing a lot more interest in crypto again. People are starting to say, I get it now. All of that kind of stuff. So that's been great. We've also, we've got as we built this new platform that I've mentioned before, there's a whole free component now. And we've built education for people that's free as well. So people just go to realvision.com/Scott, go there. It's free. But there's whole education about crypto to not fuck this up. We're just trying to help as many people as possible, as you are. Just help them navigate this, because once you've been around the block a few times, you know how it plays out.
I know I'm supposed to let you go, but when you keep saying don't fuck this up, I know you had an epic video about it maybe a month ago. I saw it reshared, I think, today on Real Vision. What can people do really quickly to not fuck this up?
Don't use leverage. Today proved it. Don't overtrade. Just hold. Have patience. If you're going to have a degen book, have 10% of your assets in your degen book, and keep off DeFi. Don't go out trying to lend stuff for fancy returns, because you get rug pulled if you're not careful. You've added a layer of risk, and before you know it, you don't own your coins anymore, and the game is over for you. So don't do that. Also, look, most exchanges nowadays are higher quality and relatively safe, but if you can, you should not keep your coins on an exchange. That exposes other risks. So you need to have wallet hygiene. Just store things on different ledger devices or whatever. Don't store it in one wallet. Don't use that wallet for everything, because then everybody sees your wallet and you can be open to a scam. So just do that, and just don't FOMO into the shiny thing, because that is a sure way of losing money. And just step back, let the madness ensue, have a smile on your face, watch it, but try not to get caught up in it. If you do, use your 10% of your book to get caught in the madness so you can laugh at yourself, because I guarantee that 90% of you will lose 90% of the money in that book. Some of your friends will make the 100x, and you'll be always thinking, I can be them. You won't be. You never will be.
Yeah, I would say if you're already exposed to this market and you're feeling any sort of emotion, just do nothing and wait, because you're probably, whatever you're holding right now is very likely to be many multiples up, by 2025 than it is now.
Half of me wishes that we didn't have businesses to run. I could just turn off all my computers, go around the world, go off, spend 6 months in Africa, go and do something and come back, and it would be so much easier.
Yeah, to prevent yourself from making bad decisions. It's funny. I think one of the time when we were talking you were like, in person, it must have been in March. So it's still a while ago, and the market was doing well. And you were like, I'm already checking my portfolio twice a day. So something here is happening. I was like, twice a day? You mean twice every 10 minutes? If twice a day for you is FOMO, then you're doing really, really well, man.
I really try not to, but it flashes at you. And if not, what I've now done to feed the inner degen is I've got, like, on CoinMarketCap, the kind of smaller tokens and speculative stuff that I've got. And I check that all the time. Don't even check the P&L. I'm just like, are they up or down 20% today? Because they invariably are up and down 20%.
So fun. Yeah, the casino is always open there. And by the way, as I let you go, if you need any final counter indicator, Schiff is tweeting about how bad the Bitcoin spot ETF is going to be for everyone. Just
see, the gold people really hate the ETF. They think it broke their world, like they thought the futures. And yes, look, there is a reality of the fact that this is keeping money inside the TradFi system. But we also know it's like tourists. They go on holiday, look at this great country. Like, you come to the Cayman Islands, you start thinking, maybe I could move there. And before you know it, you buy an apartment there or whatever it is, right? People, as you said before, they come in through the Bitcoin ETF, they look around and like, I want some of that meme coin ridiculousness or NFTs, or I want to sport a punk. And before you know it, they're in crypto land full time. So.
Well, they're all welcome here, man. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully after this cycle, we can all move to the Caymans.
Exactly.
It's lovely, man. That's definitely better than whatever I'm doing with my life. It made me feel bad. All right, man. Everybody follow Raoul. Obviously, I know you already are. You have your own YouTube now, so those videos are incredible.
You can find me on YouTube, Raoul Pal, the Journeyman. Tons of great stuff. My big macro thesis, crypto thesis, is there. It came out over Christmas, New Year. Go and watch that. And if you want the free Real Vision experience with the AI and all of the videos and the transcripts and the education stuff and everything else, just go to realvision.com/Scott. It's all free. So knock your socks off.
Amazing, dude. Thank you so much. We're going to do this again soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
All right, my friend. Take care, everyone.
See you soon. Wow. That was awesome. I'm used to having at least an hour with Raoul, so it's hard for me to even have a 30-minute conversation with a big brain like that. I do want to move to the Caymans, though. I'm going to be honest. It's really, really appealing. So, guys, it's not done. We're not done. We've got our normal Wednesday here, and what a better day to look at charts with Chris Friggs of Texas West Capital. Dude, there's 4,400 people who showed up to YouTube. Another 500 right now watching on Twitter, all because you're here.
Yeah, I wish. I get
They're all here for you. It's incredible. Great job. Great job.
Man,
so yeah, man.
You, I was listening there with you and Raoul there, and man, I am 100% behind what he said there at the end about over trading and about just kind of holding on a bit and, not getting shaken out by the short moves. And, and the fact that really I'm big on what he said about, 90+% of y'all are going to, you're going to see somebody get 100 times on something. You'll be like, oh man, I can do that too, but you can't, and you won't. And most of those people that got it are lucky. Very few of them are actually skilled that get it, right? All of it just like hoping and whatever. And so the thing is, if you're using proper risk management, and you're taking profits along the way, you're going to be a lot further ahead than what most people end up being, when they go through a bull cycle. I said the other day on Twitter, there on X, I posted, and I said that, just because it's a bull market doesn't guarantee that you're going to make money. A lot of people lose money in the bull market. And so you got to know what you're doing. You can't just hope. Either that or buy and hold. And then you still got to hope a bit if you're getting something really kind of crazy out there. But if you're buying and holding Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever, most likely you're going to make money. So
yeah, that's what I said. Like if you're exposed now, man, go touch some grass and get out of here. Like Raoul said, I think that's true. But I mean, you've got to take a look at Bitcoin here, obviously on the daily. Yeah. The first thing that I noticed here, just on my end, is the last time we were at the 50 MA was 26,700-ish all the way back in October, right? And you generally get these mean reversion touches. It didn't break, but if you want to look where this move basically died, I mean, within a couple $100, I think the 50 MA is about 40,900. This went to 40,600. That's where we bounced. I'm not saying we're going to permanently bounce, but no big coincidence that I think that's where we saw a bounce on a daily 50. And then, of course, we had this bull pennant. I mean, it's a bull pennant. It was a classic bull pennant. Looked beautiful. Volume on the breakout. Oy, bad. So that didn't work out as planned. Reminding us that technical analysis doesn't work every single time, right?
Yeah, no, it's all in how you look at it. And here's the thing. Technical analysis is a big, broad, grouping, right? So you have everybody from classical chartists to Elliott wave to Wyckoff to price action, specifically maybe ICT or something like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things under technical analysis, right? And not everything reads the same way. So for me, this is kind of how I'm looking at this. So we've got this range here. We have a great drop off in volume throughout the range here. We got this rejection that's moved out. It has not printed a lower low right now. So right now I'm really interested. There's a lot of volume. There's a volume spike on that coming down, but it's getting caught down here in these wicks where all this demand is, right? This is low volume node. I'd shown this chart. This is something I posted on the weekly. It was talking about, before we broke out, how we had this bullish consolidation on top of this. At the time, there's the blue pivot there and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, for me right now, it looks like a diagonal. So if we're popping up, if we can even zoom in more here, you can see it's just 3 waves down. So A, B, C here. The retracement, I think, is right around 70.5, which is an institutional pullback level. Let me see there. Oh, no, it actually went down a bit further here. Well, let me see. Yeah, I went down a little bit further. It's fine. But anyway, yeah. But yeah, so it hits that low volume node, grabs a bid, runs on up. 4 hour is almost oversold in Stochastic RSI as well. I'm watching right now. If we rally up, this is just 3 waves down. So if we rally up above this swing high here, it's right around 45,519 on the Bitcoin USD pair on Coinbase. But whatever chart you're looking at, it should be a 1, a 2, and a 3 like this, right? An ABC. If we're popping out above that without creating any more waves down, this is just a wave 1 on the way up. And all of a sudden, we're looking at 54,000. So, I mean, if we get this and we kind of measure this out here, let's see here, 1 and 2. Yeah, up here around 53, 54,000, depending on what chart you're looking at. And so, yeah, so it's just really important now what happens here. If we break down below here, okay, then we can look down lower. But as long as we're holding here, we're not making a new low on this big spike of volume coming off there. That daily pivot is holding right there. Man, that's just the first wave on that next series up because it's a diagonal. And if it breaks out higher, it's not an ending diagonal, it's a leading diagonal, which makes it a wave 1. So
yeah, I just want to show this right now on the last 24 hours, we're at $651 million in liquidations.
DGen's going to degen,
89%
right?
longs, right? Then you go to, I mean, so obviously it's 12 hours, 581. So most of it obviously happening recently. 4 hours 560. So there, and then 1 hour is only 25. So it all happened in that 10 or 15 minute period. Basically, when you dig into those numbers, over 500 million in a candle.
Yep.
I mean,
what are you going to do, right? We talk about it all the time and people still do it.
And it's liquidations. It's not even losses,
Yeah.
right? So that doesn't even really include the people who properly used risk management, right? These are the stop loss and just lost, right? I mean, it's literally just the people who didn't even use a stop loss and get liquidated.
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, I mean, like I said, we warn about it all the time about becoming over leveraged and getting too frothy and, you know, and stuff like that. And, you know, when it does that, the market pays the price and you kind of wash everybody out and you get back together. If you need a narrative, you know, I'm not big on narratives. I'm not big on, you know, fundamentals and all that other stuff. I'll just look at charts, but a lot of people talking about, you know, ETFs and whatnot. And I find it quite compelling that we're getting this huge reset on a lot of time frames right before a potential ETF approval right now.
Yeah,
is it going to approve or not? I don't know, but
we didn't want to be at historically high funding rates and open interest massively overbought on everything going into it.
Exactly. So, you know, I don't know, you know, if it gets approved, we're reset. I mean, technically we're reset or resetting across, you know, many time frames. So, you know, it gives it room to run. So yeah, I think it's exciting come up last few days here.
So nothing has changed for you in the sort of larger time frame views that you've had every week that we've showed up and talked
forever, right?
Just
no,
a 10% daily flush, whatever doesn't affect you. Doesn't, you know, you're not. You don't think we're going to 12,000 right now?
No, not at all.
Unless it's ETH. Unless it's ETH, maybe.
That's just Ethereum, right? Yeah, exactly. You know, I've had forever and a day here since we got this 1 and 2. I've had this wave 3 up here at almost 52,000. And if this is a 1-2, you know, taking us up to 53 or 54,000, that gets us right there with the target. So I feel pretty good about it. To me, nothing has happened. Again, we haven't lost support on there. We've got the range. Even if we do, I would caution people though, even if we get a drop below that range low that I had on there, just watch. Don't immediately sell because it could always just be a spring, or a terminal shakeout just below it. Maybe hit this S1 pivot around 38,300 and then take off and rocket back up. So just be careful. Don't assume it has to go down to, you know, everybody gets all bearish and it has to go to 5,000. You know, Capital's probably out there, texting right now that he was right. And look, it's the end of the end again. And I don't know, man. You know, you just got to be careful.
I don't know if you saw on Raoul's stream, Capo took his first long this morning at 4:30 a.m. Right before this. I'm not kidding. On AVAX, I shared it before. We had Jim Cramer yesterday, which is just funny. Whatever. It's not. It's just funny. But yeah, Capo literally took a long. I'll have to now find the tweet again. But yeah, he took a long this morning.
That's it. That's his first long, right? I mean, like I said, I think he was out.
I think it was the first public long that I've seen that he actually took since sort of capitulating on the. I don't know. Brutal.
It is what it is. But I tell you what, guys, listen, here's the thing about trading. Nothing on Capo, just individually, but just specifically on doing that thing. If you're a trader and you think you know something that other people don't know, I mean, jump on it. You know, trading's all about asymmetric information. It's all about knowing something that somebody else doesn't know and taking advantage of that. You know, if you say you know something and then you're not taking advantage of it, do you really believe that you know it? You know, and that's what it comes down to. Proper risk management at the end of the day, guys. It really is proper risk management. So,
yeah. And, you know, all of this triggered by the Matrix port analyst that nobody knows or cares about saying that. And then, yeah, you get the good takes, right? Meta lawman who I have on the show all the time, James Murphy. If the SEC were to deny all spot Bitcoin ETFs, the applicants would immediately sue. And the DC Court of Appeals would again rule that the SEC was arbitrary and capricious. The SEC gave every reason they had for denying Grayscale and loss. I expect multiple approvals on January 10th. I mean, that seems like a pragmatic, reasonable, and rational based on evidence take on what's likely to happen here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, again, for me, you know, it's all about the charts. I know everybody likes to talk about all the other stuff because the other stuff feeds emotion, right? If you're in a trade and you say, okay, well, the trade has to go long. Well, what information can I find that supports what I'm saying? How can I twist that so that it really supports my emotional bias in this trade? And so, you know, I mean, people still try to do it with charts as well, but it's not it's not the same type of emotional connection that you often get with narratives. Narrative stories are very big for human beings. We use them in marketing and advertising and everything all the time because they work. But people use them when they're trading because it makes them feel warm. It makes them feel better, right? If you can find, oh, well, this guy's saying this, then basically, oh, I'm as smart as they are, and so we're going to do this. You got to be careful with that. But yeah. I mean, the charts are not looking bearish.
Okay, so are you looking at any other charts specifically at the
Yeah,
moment? By the way,
a lot of
as you
people
do
talking
that,
about-
you do that, here it is. I have just been informed of what really happened at 4:48 a.m. Capo took his first long since 2022.
From the exact moment the entire market duped.
I mean, it's uncanny. It's uncanny.
It's awful. But yeah, I mean, so everybody's kind of talking about file and everything, and we've got this great accumulation range going on here. We're just now getting ready to break out. We should have a jump across the creek here, which is just basically this breakout through this this supply here that's keeping everything down, which should be a decent sized candle, large candle spread, large spike of volume. Right now, again, all we've got is this pullback. Based on this being a 1 and a 2, we've got a 3 up here at 26.48. So, I mean, that's that's where I'm going with this. You can see we've got a lot of volume as we kind of broke out through the range here up into this area. So all this where you would expect it. Anybody that would short over here is going to try and protect those shorts. And those who missed are going to think, oh, I've got a second chance now. But man, look at how quick that was bought back up. I mean, this daily candle here. Let's drop it down to 4 hour here. Look at this. Less than 3 hours, man. It's down and right back up, over 50% back up. Right there at the S1 pivot, especially if this thing closes above the 4 hour, the hourly pivot here. I don't see a whole lot of reason to believe it won't continue up higher. But big picture is, looking at least at 26.48 right now with file on here. By the way, if we look at this as a 1 and a 2 here, you can see we hit wave 3 right here, basically.
Perfect.
And then we pull back wave 4, the 100%. So wave 5 should be a $10.61 kind of cent target area right there.
Take that.
So yeah, file still looking good. I think it's got a long way to go there.
Got flushed. It's so crazy when even as many times as you see it, to see what a like 7 or 8% instant move in Bitcoin does to altcoins.
Right, exactly. Let me see here. I know I've got. Where is my actual chart? Oh, it's right here. It's with all these. Oh, okay. So yeah, I've got some ones here. Let's jump here to FTT real quick because people are crazy. They're still buying that.
We do not encourage you to trade the token of the dead exchange, but hey, it's got a chart.
But if you're charting it, if you're trading, if you're in it, here's what I'm seeing at the moment. We've got basically a 50% pullback on a flat here, ending diagonal. It looks like with a throw under of the wedge. So looking for an impulsive breakout above the wedge, especially above the daily pivot here at about $3 and about $4. If we can get an impulsive breakout, that's a large candle spread, large spike of volume. I think that says wave 4 is done. Wave 5's got a minimum expected target up here of $10.40. But damn, we've got this fair value gap all the way up here to $25.47. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this potentially overextend on up there into that kind of area. But minimally, if we're getting a rally from where we're at here, probably looking about a $10.40 target initially anyway. If we do continue to come down further, I mean, my first thought is the S1 pivot here. It's right there around $1.93. And then we'd want to see a breakout back above the pivot. If we got that, we'd be long, a bit higher there. We can note that we got this dip down here right into that low volume node. So if you guys are out there trading, you've got your VPVR on over here, your volume by price level. Always be looking at these low volume nodes. They give you a lot of area of resistance and support, depending if you're below or above them. So again, you can see it hit that. It's bouncing. We'll see if we can get it rallied.
So we're largely looking for opportunities here on these dips. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, right now the rally's back up. You'll see them on a few of these charts. They look really good. So it's very encouraging, right? LDO USDT. This is the 3-day chart. We show you this nice resistance area here that we've kind of, again, not saying this is an ascending triangle, but we do have consolidating toward resistance here. We have the higher lows up toward this resistance area. It looks like a 1-2-1-2. Again, think of things like Ethereum that I've charted out there. And there's a few others. Look at, this one right here. this interior wave 3 minimum expected target of $11.97. The larger 3 has a minimum expected target of $24.15. So once we break out through this, worst case scenario is a little retest of it, and then kind of continuing up toward those 2 targets pretty easily, I think, going up there.
That's a nice chart.
Yeah, it's I like that. I like the consolidation for the resistance again.
Yeah.
OP.
Look at that retest. Yeah, look at that retest. And
Yeah,
that's
right
a blue
there.
sky, right? I mean, that's the all-time high.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, again,
ARB did that today too. I'm not sure where it is now, but ARB had a all-time high breakout, just like a lot of these. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
ARB's
right
been
below
running here
now.
lately too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But look at that. I mean, yeah, you know, pull back to it. We touched it right here on the way up. This is a 3-day as well, just to give you kind of a cleaner picture here. And then, you know, a pullback here again, just testing the pivot as support. If that thing holds, there's no reason why we shouldn't be rallying. And so I've got an initial target of $5.16 or so. But usually if we're testing the pivot here, we're at the R1, usually we'll just kind of come back toward the pivot again. So you know, right above it here, probably around where we are at the moment. And then we'll break out higher. So initial target of $5.16 or so, and then $27.25, and then $60.97 up there. So yeah, I think these charts are great with Raoul talking about, hey, just kind of hold on to it for a bit. Don't get shaken on the small movements. Don't try and trade your way to, you know, the poorhouse. Every little move, you know.
Poorhouse is bad. Try to avoid that.
Let's see here.
Yeah,
I've got XLM. We've got this nice range sitting right here. Again, same idea. You know, we've got this great dip down into this support down here in this wick, which hasn't been touched. There's a whole bunch of demand that hasn't been touched in this wick. So we got to hit here, rallied it back up. Basically, S1 pivot here on the daily is holding a support if we close above it. And so again, it's a 3-wave movement down. You can see that on this rally up, excuse me, it's just a 7. There's my 70.5 retrace. That's what I was talking about. That's an institutional level, almost to the tick. So based on the height of the swing high to swing low, you know, you got a pattern target of 17.3 cents. And then I've actually got targets of about 18.5 cents and almost 21 cents up here, 20.87 cents actually moving up there. So just looking for a breakup. What was that?
I love the dinosaurs. I love the dinosaurs.
Yeah. The things we made so much money on back there in God, what was it, man? What was it like? 2007.
That was like 17, 8. Yeah.
Yeah, man. We were popping in and out of that all the time. But yeah, if you're breaking out here above, what is this? A 13.34 cents. So about 13.3 cents right here. Again, it's 3 waves down. So if you're breaking out above that, minimally should be the pattern target, but probably these 2 targets as well coming on there. Let's see here. I got 2 more here. It looks like I've got KCS USDT. Again, if you zoom in, it looks like a 3-wave movement down here. So we're just looking for a breakout back above, getting out of this range. It's a 38.2 pullback. If we can get this breakout here through the range, we're looking at $18.94, and then $21.45. If we do happen to break down, not just a wick down, but like really break down, again, we'll look at the S1 pivot, and then we want to see a rally and break back out above the pivot. If we can do that here on the daily, then that'll set us up for a new high coming out through there. And
all right. Loving that.
What's that?
I said loving that.
And again, 3-wave movement down here. This is Rose. People have been asking about this. It's a 3-wave move. We've rallied, 50% or more back up already, back above this previous block here, demand block. So we're back above that, trying to close up back above that pivot. Again, this is the daily. So again, if we're down 3 and we're breaking out above that second wave there at 1467, 0.1467. Initial target of 0.18866. Secondary target of 0.31638, and third target of 0.41239. So none of those are straight up targets. Well, maybe the first one, but with these larger targets, just understand, guys, you're going to rally up, pull back, rally up, pull back. But that's where we kind of should be heading at least on these. So some good opportunities.
Love it. Love it. There, I see some amazing, by the way, comments. Well, here's a question. I'm curious as to how all the leverage got flushed out across all the cryptos. It seemed planned, and the big whales would have to have positions and everything. I don't think that the big whales have positions in everything. I think that once they trigger Bitcoin, everything else just goes. And when you're at historically high open interest and funding rates, it does not take much in the spot market to push it. So that I think that's more what happened. I don't think it's like a single person who's selling to make profit on every single token. I think it just incidentally causes that sort of cascade.
Well, and a lot of it, these these bigger crypto funds and whatnot, they've got these algorithms out there, and they're in multiple alts and whatnot. And so when you get a certain movement according to the algorithm on Bitcoin or on the alt itself or whatever, it triggers them to sell, which then maybe triggers other of their algos, triggers. And so it's just
cascade.
what it is.
Yeah.
So it's not like some big conspiracy.
Yeah. And the final take that I have to just correct, because I keep saying it, Catherine Woods knew she sold all her Bitcoins. Everyone is arguing about this in the comments. She didn't. It's a false narrative. She sold her GBTC position because it went from a 50% discount to a 5% discount. And she moved the money that she made into BITO, which is the Bitcoin Futures ETF, in holding for her own Bitcoin spot ETF that is coming. Yeah. Kathy Woods would not liquidate all of her Bitcoin in advance of the approval of her own spot ETF that she needs to have massive assets under management. It's a false narrative that you guys are reading. It's not true. And at the end of the day, she has a 15% max allocation to Bitcoin adjacent stocks. So she sells Coinbase and GBTC as they do well to rebalance her portfolio and keep it at 15%. And she didn't sell a single Bitcoin, only GBTC and some Coinbase stock. Guys, don't buy the FUD. Dude, we have a huge audience. We have a huge audience here. At the beginning. Yeah.
About emotion, narrative.
Yeah, we have a huge audience here today, Chris. The opportunity to shill to them everything else you got going on since they're all here.
Hey, listen, man. All I could say, guys, is I spent the last year and a half really being a lot more public than I usually am. I've called I don't know anybody really that's called more bottoms than I have over this in stocks and crypto over the last year and a half, and I've explained how they worked and why they were happening and whatnot. You guys can learn to do this. You really can, if you want to. We'd love to have you. Members.texaswestcapital.com. We've got a group coaching yearly program that we get, and you learn exactly what I do day in and day out. I'm telling you, it's worth every penny. So. And
for those who haven't been here before, Chris taught me many years ago. I knew the basics of trading, but he sharpened my knife, made me a much better trader, removed all the emotions. He's the guy who I credit for being my mentor for largely all of my success in trading. So. There's a reason he's here every Wednesday, and it's not because I just think he's handsome, although I'm sure he's very handsome. Right? Yeah, it's the beard. He's here for the beard. But yeah, guys, you should be following him, checking out everything that he has going on. And on that note, you should also be subscribing to this channel, liking it down below. You've obviously seen that the numbers have exploded. That is a coincidence? No, it's because the market is exceptionally good. We're here every single day. We were here every single day through the bear market. I am committed. As I've said, if you guys wonder, the ethos of my channel, very different than that of other YouTubers that have been successful. I do not want to necessarily be the alpha like other YouTubers. I don't want to tell you what to do. I don't want to tell you what to trade. I want to bring on experts and talk to them, ask them questions so that I can learn. And by proxy, you can learn with me, right? So the alpha for my channel is always in the guests, very rarely in me. I consider myself more of a student than a teacher. I always have. And that's what you can expect if you continue to show up here day in, day out like we do. And Chris is here every single Wednesday, one of the 3 traders that we've chosen to have regularly on these streams. We've got Macro Monday with James Lavish, Mike McGlone, Dave Weisberger. Absolutely incredible content. Thinking about breaking that out into its own complete channel because it's doing so well. We got John Wick on Tuesdays, Chris on Wednesdays, Dan, chart guys, amazing alpha on Thursdays. And then I've got NLW on Fridays for the Friday 5. And we're going to be adding more, I can promise you, especially as these number goes up. It inspires us to do more. So please subscribe to the channel, see everything we have coming. Chris, sorry you had to sit there through my pitch.
That's all good, man.
You looked great. You looked interested. Guys, I got to go. Twitter Spaces, we are back. Crypto Town Hall, I expect
I'll see you there, man.
To be absolutely massive. And Chris will be there. So come join us in 15 minutes. Crypto_town hall is the Twitter account that's on. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Subscribe, like, see you tomorrow. We're going to have another big one tomorrow. I've got James Seyfert from Bloomberg tomorrow and Haider Rafiq from OKX. So we're going to keep this train rolling. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye, Chris. Thank you.